So the second thing that I'm going to share with you is that I accepted the parts of me that I thought were bad or that needed to be removed. So if this is your first episode that you're tuning in with, in the first episode in season 1, I shared my story. And part of my story is that I have learning disabilities. And in my brain, that has always told me that there is something wrong with me. Not only do I have learning disabilities, but I also have a generalized anxiety disorder, and a bunch of mental health issues. But I always thought that it was something that was bad, it was something that was wrong with me, and I needed to eliminate it. Hello and welcome to One World Countless Stories with me, Selena Novello. Today is going to be a solo podcast because I have some topics that I really want to talk about, and I'm going to start doing it more in season 2. I find that having the interviews is so valuable and so important, but I also have so many things that happen to me and that I learn and experience that I just want to start sharing with you. And so today's topic is all about self-love, and specifically my self-love journey, and I'm going to share with you 5 things that have helped me along my self-love journey. So like I said, I'm going to start with sharing some tidbits of my self-love journey, which requires me to be vulnerable on a different level than I have ever been before. This is something that I don't often share about, and I do keep private because these are things that are just really hard to deal with. But I realize the importance of pushing myself outside my comfort zone and sharing this with you all, just because I know I'm not the only one out there, and I would have loved hearing somebody say these things when I was younger, or right now even. So I am going to take the leap and share about it. And something really cool about this week's podcast is I'm actually doing it in my school's podcasting room. So if you have been with us for the last little bit, you would know that I went to Europe and traveled and took a gap year, but I decided to go back to school at Mount Royal University. And today I was walking around, and I went to go to one of the rooms with my brother, and he was like, yeah, there's a podcasting room, because I was like, I have to record a podcast episode in my car because life has happened the last couple of weeks, and I tried to have this all set up, all done, but it just didn't happen. You know, life happens. I got really, really busy, went on a couple trips, did a couple things, volunteered at some places, and things have been wild. So I'm literally recording this the night before the podcast is actually out. But I was telling my brother that I was like, yeah, I have to do it in my car because I have to do what I have to do to make this work. And he's like, oh, there's a podcasting room. And I was like, no way. So I checked it out, booked it out. I've been playing around in here for a little while. I still don't think I've gotten it down. And then to make it even better, I decided to sit down and record this, and the Wi-Fi is not working. So we are rolling with the punches to the best of our abilities today, but I'm still so excited to talk to you about self-love and my self-love journey, because it has been a long journey. But I just wanted you to know that the quality might seem different, or you might be hearing a different type of voice, I guess that's the best way to explain it. I don't really know how else to explain it, just because normally I do not use a professional microphone. And this could also not be working at all, and it is just simply recording on my phone. So I don't really know 100% if it's working. I can see the green lines go up and down on this soundboard. So I'm hoping it is working. Before we jump in, one more thing. I wanted to just throw out a little bit of a disclaimer. So I am not an expert in self-love yet. I am by far not an expert. I don't know everything there is to know, but I am sharing from my experience, and I'm sharing from what has helped me personally, and some of the thought processes that I've had to change in order to get some more results. And I'm sure that there is other ways out there, outside of what I'm sharing with you right now, because honestly, what I'm sharing with you is just such a small little tidbit. And I said I was going to share 5 tips, but I think I might share 6, because one just popped in my head that I really want to share with you guys. I am growing and I am learning as I go, and I want to share my findings along the way with you. And again, this is really why I built this podcast, so I could share all the amazing stories and different things that I've learned already along my life. And so that is just a little bit of a disclaimer to say that I don't know everything. I'm still learning. I'm still in the process of this. I'm sure I'm going to record this podcast episode, and then a couple minutes later I'm going to be like, oh, I should have talked about this and this and this, because there's just endless amount of things, and it's all about what works for you specifically. So these are just things that I've done and that I have tried and that have worked, and so I just want to pass along the information. All right, so let's start with a little bit of a background of my self-love journey. So I have not had a very healthy relationship with myself, to be honest with you, from the age of since I can remember, really. I have been really, really hard on myself, and really about the way that I look. I was really harsh on myself, and I always just felt like the outside of me did not reflect the inside of me. I was very negative towards myself. I said a lot of mean things to myself. I still say a lot of mean things to myself. And at the end of the day, we are all our worst critics. But I am my worst critic to myself. And it sucks. It can suck when this is the way that you have lived your life. And recently, when I got to go on my Europe trip, things really started to change. You know, it has been a long process, but there has been great movement steps forward that have been taken. And just giving you the background of my relationship with myself is helpful to know that it's okay where you are right now. If you are somewhere where you don't love yourself, you don't love your body, you don't love who you are, that's okay, because I was there at one point as well. And I'm still growing through it. And what I'm about to talk about in a couple of minutes is just about how it all fluctuates and it goes up and down. I would say that my experience through elementary and as a teen, I was really, really, really negative towards myself, and I didn't have a lot of positive things to say, but I acted confident regardless. I was like, you know what, it doesn't matter, I'm just going to be the most confident person. But in reality, in the inside, I was not very confident, and my hair's not good, my pants don't fit me right, I need to wear this because that's what everyone else is wearing. And I had a lot of these thoughts, and I don't know if you can resonate with that or if you've ever felt this way, but these are things that have been present within my journey. And I am so, so proud of myself to see where I was and where I've gotten to now, and just for the opportunity of what it will be in the future as well. So I feel like I haven't really dug very deep into my past relationship with myself, but at this time, that is what I want to share. And that's okay too, because I know in the future I will probably do another podcast episode about this, and I will have more time to process and feel and talk a little bit more about what my issues are within my own personal self-relationship. But they're along the lines of just poor body image, and I didn't love myself. I haven't loved myself. And I always was comparing myself to others. I know a lot of us out there, we are comparing ourselves constantly to others. And of course, we can consider the realm of social media that was new. You know, I grew up on Instagram, and when I grew up, it wasn't what it is today. But I find that we have access to people's lives on a different level than we ever did before. And so we are comparing on a different level than we ever did before. And we're also comparing way more because we're also on those apps a lot more as well. So that is what I'm going to talk about in terms of my past and what has affected me. So we can kind of summarize that there's been a lot of comparison, a lot of not feeling good enough, a lot of wanting to change my body and poor body imaging, and just not feeling confident in myself whatsoever, and just, again, feeling like I am not enough because of the way that I look, which is like deep and really sad, but it's the truth. It is how I felt. And if you've ever felt that way before, I see you, and I want to walk with you in this, and I hope that the tips and mindsets that I'm about to share with you will help you and help you take that first step. All right, so let's get started in the 6 things that have helped me on my self-love journey. But more than just 6 things that have helped me, also lessons I have learned about self-love, especially over the past couple of years. Now, I talked about on my one podcast episode that I did lessons that I learned while I was in Europe. I was like, I'm doing a part 2, and it's all about self-love because I learned so much. And if I would have recorded that podcast episode a couple of, months ago, it would have been a very different podcast episode than this one. I still want to share those insights, but with this one, I want to leave you with concrete things that you can take away. And in those lessons, I haven't had a lot of time to reflect on some of those things that I really wanted to share with you. But I'm going to talk about them a little bit, but I just wanted to acknowledge that it's a different podcast episode than I thought that I would be recording a couple months ago about self-love, because what had happened is I went on this trip to Europe and it was the best experience, and I have never experienced the amount of self-love I ever experienced. But it was so positive, it was so great. I was so excited to share everything with you. And then I came home and the cycle crashed. And I was back to hating myself, hating where I was, hating my environment, hating all these things. So that is just a little bit of an acknowledgement that this is a little bit of a different episode than what I was originally planning on talking about, but again, around the same things, but just some more realistic aspects that I have experienced over time. So let's get into number 1. Self-love is like weather. Self-love is like weather. So, weather, it changes often. It will be very sunny. If you live in Calgary, Alberta, or in Alberta in general, in Canada, you know that the weather switches like nobody's business. It can be summer one day and winter the next day. And I find self-love is a lot like that. It is a lot like weather. In weather, we have seasons. So we have winter, we have fall. No, wait. We have summer, we have fall, we have winter, and we have spring. Let's go in that order. In some period of time is better, and some is worse. Some people love the summer. It's shiny, it's sunny, it's bright, it's beautiful. And then sometimes we have the winter where it's dark, it's cold, it's gloomy, it's heavy. And again, it could be switched if you like summer over winter. But if we're looking at more of just the factual things that come along with the seasons changing. And I find that we as humans, as people, we are always constantly moving through different seasons of our life. And in that, we will have different seasons and different types of self-love within it. And I just think that's so cool, but also so frustrating, because I would love to say that there is a point where it's like, yep, check that box. I have experienced, or not that I've experienced, I've got self-love under control. I've got it all understood. It's all figured out. It's all perfect. I love myself. I love my body. I love who I am. I would love to tell you that there is a finish point, but there honestly isn't. And the best part is that it goes up and it goes down and it loops around, and it will be spring some days, it will be winter other days, it will be fall some days, and it will be summer some days. You could have the best day one day. You're feeling good about yourself, you're feeling good about your body, feeling good about who you are, and for some reason, the next day, it's like a flip was switched, and you're not feeling good about yourself and not feeling good about the way you look. You look in the mirror and you don't like who you see. And it's just so interesting how that happens. And when that happens, we start to think, oh my gosh, something's wrong. Why is it not always perfect? I know when I say we, I mean me in a lot of ways, where I feel like I personally will have so many great days. I'll feel so good about my body, so confident about who I am. And then the next day, I'll wake up and I'm not feeling great, I'm not feeling hot. And that's why I say self-love is like weather, because it changes constantly, but also there's periods of time, but it's like when we ride out the winter, we get the beautiful spring and all the blossom and the flowers and the new lessons and the new things that we can add to our toolbox. So as much as saying self-love is like whether it could be a negative thing, it's also a very positive thing. But it's something so important to acknowledge, because I always thought there was a point that I would reach where I've achieved self-love. I love myself fully. But that's not realistic. I thought when I was on my Europe trip, I was like, I have met my self-love. I love myself. I love what I'm doing. I love who I am. I'm adventurous. I'm curious. But then, like I said, I came home and I started not loving myself where I was, not loving my environment, all those different things. But that's the process of life. It's gonna happen. It's just like when you peak so high, you've gotta come down. It's just like our heart rates, they go up and down, up and down. It's natural. It's natural to do that. But when you have the mindset of that, you need to achieve self-love as it's something achievable. It's just like perfection. It's like we want to achieve perfection, but there's no such thing as achieving true perfection. Now, I believe there is such a thing as achieving self-love, of course, but just acknowledging it as a rocky road, as a one hell of a roller coaster, and as something that will be continuous. It is a continuous job to love ourselves. And that is a huge acknowledgement and something that is so important. All right, so let's jump in to number 2. So the second thing that I'm going to share with you is that I accepted the parts of me that I thought were bad or that needed to be removed. So if this is your first episode that you're tuning in with, in the first episode in season 1, I shared my story. And part of my story is that I have learning disabilities. And in my brain, that has always told me that there is something wrong with me. Not only do I have learning disabilities, but I also have a generalized anxiety disorder, and a bunch of mental health issues. But I always thought that it was something that was bad, it was something that was wrong with me, and I needed to eliminate it. I needed to toss it out, chuck it out into the garbage, get it out of my life. But what I realized through therapy, shout out to my counselor, love her, she's literally the best person ever. What I realized was that I had to accept those parts and not try to get rid of them anymore. I did counseling since I was in grade 10. So I did it for like 3 years, and then I took a break due to COVID, and then I got back into it. But during those 3 years, I still felt like in counseling and therapy, I still felt like I had to get rid of those parts of myself. Like the perfectionist needed to take a hike. It needed to get out of here. It was causing me way too much stress, way too many issues. And I believed that until I graduated, dealt with COVID, went back to counseling, and realized that those are parts of me. And once I accept them, oh my goodness, I will tell you the change was unreal. So I'm going to share with you a little bit of some of my therapy session. So right away at the beginning, my therapist drew 3 circles from what I was talking. She drew 3 circles and she put the words perfectionist. She put the words, oh my gosh, I can't even remember them right now. But she identified 3 parts of me, and we called it the trifecta. So as the perfectionist, let's throw in fear of failure person. I don't know. There was a trifecta within me, okay? And let's say the anxiety, the perfectionist, and the control. Oh, no, that's not even right. Oh, I'm so mad that I can't remember this right now. Anyways, the trifecta within me. And we called it the trifecta, and I know for sure perfection was in my trifecta. And she was like, so we've acknowledged that this is here, right? We've got your perfectionism, we got your anxiety, and we've got it all here. And this was a coping mechanism or a response to stress that helped you. It helped you at one point. These things helped you survive. So your brain recognized that and continued to use it. But then it started not helping you so much anymore. And immediate response for me was, I need to get rid of this. I need to throw them in the trash. Goodbye. See you later. See you never. But I had to let them have a seat at the table because at the end of the day, they are still part of who I am. But we needed to add some new seats to the table. And it's kind of funny, if you've ever seen Inside Out, it's a kids movie. Highly recommend you watch it if you haven't. It's on Disney+. It's called Inside Out, and they're like these little characters that are inside your head, right? I kind of like imagine them as like super fluffy fluff balls kind of thing. But there's one that's joy, there's one that's angry, disgust, anxious. There's a bunch of them, and then sadness. And so I kind of like visualize them as that. They're sitting at a table, and the ones that are taking charge are the anxiety, the perfectionist, the do it all or else you're worthless. Those voices, they were all controlling the table. They were making things even worse at some times, but also recognizing that they were helping me survive. So instead of saying, okay, goodbye, you don't get a seat at this table anymore, it was bringing in new people, new characters into the table to have a seat at the table. So it was bringing things like compassion, self-love, voice of reasoning. It was allowing those different parts of me that were there. They were just beaten down with a mallet and said, nope, your opinion doesn't matter. And they so badly wanted to say something a lot of the time, but it's hard because for me to explain it to you, in my head, it's constant battle. And it's so exhausting to be the positive in a lot of the time inside your own head. And so I'd let the negative win because I was like, okay, well, you know what? My self-love is just going to have to wait because I don't got time for this and I don't want it. It's not going to happen, right? So eventually, within my own head, I would beat up those areas with the trifecta and then give up and be like, hey, this is just the way it's got to be. But that's not true. You got to allow them to come and have a seat at the table, still acknowledging that they are there, that the perfectionist is still there, the anxiety is still there. We are not trying to eliminate any of these. We're just trying to accept them, acknowledge them, and see if we can do something different than we did last time. Bringing different opinions, different perspectives into your own brain and saying, maybe I don't want to freak out about this test that I have because you know what? I have it all understood. I know anxiety right now that, hello, hi anxiety. You want to come in and make me very upset and anxious and go down that rabbit hole. I see you. I'm going to acknowledge you. But this time I think we're going to let compassion have a little bit more of a seat at the table. So I hope this is making sense because it is something that has helped me so much. I also thought with my learning disability that I needed to get rid of it. In order to be enough, in order to be loved, I needed to toss that thing in the garbage. But in reality, I needed to accept I do have dyslexia. And you know what? I do have some things that make it hard for me to remember things. I have poor working memory. But you know what? It's okay. And I've learned a lot of tools on how to cope with it. And I haven't said, okay, goodbye, because that's not how the learning disabilities work. You can't just get rid of them. But it's letting them have a seat at the table and acknowledging them. Because before, like I said, in your system, they were helpful. They helped you survive something either traumatic or something stressful. They helped you. And so your brain kept track of it. And they were like, yeah, okay, we're going to do this and we're going to keep doing it. But there becomes a point where it's not helpful anymore. And so that is where you want to accept it, acknowledge it, and see if there's a different way that you can start thinking. And I just kind of feel like that was so profound. And even just speaking these words, I feel like it is so profound. And so I encourage you to take your notebook out and ask yourself, what do I believe is bad about myself? Do you think your work ethic, your workaholicism, I don't know if that's a word, is something that is bad and needs to be changed? And just take a look at what you actually feel is bad about yourself and see, okay, I'm going to acknowledge these. I'm going to label them. For me, that was huge. We're going to write them all down. We're going to label them. Now when they come up in experiences and situations, I can identify them And then I can see if I want to bring anybody else's voices in, like self-love, compassion, empathy, all those things. And so I hope that really made sense for you and that is going to be a helpful practice. Again, if this helps you in any way, it lights me up when I hear how impactful this podcast is to you. So send me a message, leave a review whenever I hear those things, and I hear that I'm able to help others. It just lights me on fire. And so if this is something that was like really food for thought for you and very helpful, let a girl know. Let a sister know. Okay, so that was number 3. Now, no, whoa. Okay, so that was number 2. Now we are going to move on to number 3, which I've already talked a little bit about, but I've been so excited to share this piece of information with literally anyone that is breathing. I am like, oh my gosh, think about it like this. So I was in my therapy session, and my counselor was kind of like, yeah, you might, like, not saying that you need to, but you might need to be in therapy for the rest of your life. And immediately my brain's like, uh-oh, you are bad. You are a bad person. Like, you're not good enough. Like, you are a literal broken human, which, by the way, we kind of all are, but you are a broken human and you need to be fixed all the time and you'll never be able to do it on your own. But then, following that comment right away, she said, but I feel like it's becoming more normalized. And the next statement she said just shook me to my core, and I love it. It's so true. And she said, it's like your physical health. If you want to get physically healthy, do you go to the gym once or 4 times or take one class and say, great, I'm physically fit now for the rest of my life? No, you got to go 3 times a week to the gym or 3 times a week and walk to reach your goal of being physically fit. So why, when it comes to getting professional help or working on your mental health, is it like, oh, if you go to 4 therapy sessions, you'll be great? It's not like that. If you want to stay mentally fit, you also will need to put in the work. And I'm not saying that putting in the work means going to therapy. I'm just saying that's kind of like what it looks like for me at this time, where I process and I learn through communicating and talking. And so for me, that is a great tool that I will use to help my mental health. And I just I just thought it was so mind-blowing. Then I was thinking about this podcast episode and how that actually relates into self-love as well. It relates into a lot of areas of our life if we really break it down. But when we look at it, it's a work in progress. You go to the gym for a year consistently. You are going to be more physically fit than if you didn't. So if you work on self-love 3 times a week kind of thing, for a year, you will also achieve more self-love. But now, acknowledging still the first thing is that it's not always going to be perfect and it's going to be all over the place. But the more you practice self-love, the stronger it will be and the easier it will come over time. And I was just really thinking about that and how it's so, so true that we kind of expect for self-love to just happen. We're like, it just needs to happen. But in reality, we have to work on it, just like we have to work on our bodies if we want to be physically fit, just like we have to work on our minds if we want to be mentally fit. We have to work on loving ourselves every single day. It's true, every single day. And one thing that I'm starting to do more and more is complimenting myself in the mirror and saying one nice thing about myself, because often we stand in front of a mirror and we pick apart every single thing we hate. Underneath my eyes are dark. I have a scar on my arm. My freckles on my face, I hate them. I mean, I love freckles on people's faces, but again, whatever that looks like for you, or my ankles are huge, my toes are ugly, whatever it is, when you're looking in the mirror, we often go to that initial beat up ourselves. But what I've been trying to do is complimenting myself and setting myself up to feel good about myself. So maybe that's wearing clothes that I love, putting on jewelry that makes me feel pretty, And just doing more little things like that, but being really intentional when I'm in front of the mirror. And again, seeing those negative thoughts come in my head and say, okay, hi, let them fly by. And putting some good ones in, like, hey, your hair looks so good today. Or, hey, your arms, they're looking extra strong today. And it's going to be hard. It is hard because we're not used to it, but it is very beneficial. And it actually has helped a lot. And it's crazy because, you think of like positive self-talk, which is so important, but more like, what are they called? Brain fart. Oh my gosh, what are they called? Like positive reinforcements, I guess. Yeah, let's call them that. Like when you say, today's going to be a great day, even when you just woke up out of bed late and you feel like shit. Today's going to be a great day. Saying that, like a positive affirmation. An affirmation, that's what they're called. We think that they're stupid, some people think that they're stupid, some people think that they don't work. I've even challenged, like, do they really work? Because what if I don't believe them yet? But we are so good at telling our brain different things and tricking our brains, and our brains are so smart, and I'm learning this in my psychology class, which is so cool. But eventually, the repetition of hearing those things, it will actually make an impact in your body, in your brain. And I actually learned this in my first psychology class, and I wish I remembered the specific way she said it, but it's just not coming to me, so it is what it is. But really, saying the positive affirmations that even though you might not 100% believe right now, eventually it will become truth. Because if your head is filled with negative things, you are going to feel negative. If your head is filled with positive things, it's going to be positive. And again, there's going to be balance. There's going to be a mix in there. But if you can be intentional about what you're saying to yourself and just start observing, you don't have to make any rash changes right now, but just start observing, like, when you look in the mirror, what are you actually thinking? Because when you start being aware of what you're actually saying to yourself, they're like, makes sense why I might not be feeling so great today. I literally told myself that today sucks, I'm tired. And that's what I decided. So in that, there's a lot of little things in number 3, but just that self-love is a work in progress, and that you are going to have to work on it. And sometimes you're not going to want to believe the things that you're saying, but taking the time and being intentional with what you say to yourself is rewarding. Okay? The 4th thing is spending time on your own. I don't know why I just sang that, but I felt like it. So, the 4th thing is spending time on your own and exploring what you actually like. I think so often we kind of fall into these identities that we don't really know where they came from or who put them on us. But what I found while I was in Europe, and I've been reflecting on a lot lately, is that I spent a lot of time alone while I was in Europe, but also a lot of time with other people, but a lot of time alone. And I was able to reflect on a lot of things and figure out what it meant to be Selena and what it meant to like, and what it was that I actually liked. And recently I've been feeling really bad about just like liking alone time and wanting to be alone sometimes. And it was weird because I was like, what does Selena want to do for her birthday that's coming up soon? And it was like, normally I want to be around people and spend it with people, but I was actually like, I think I want to spend it alone. I want to go on an adventure by myself, because I find that I'm in peace a lot when I'm by myself, because I don't have the voices of anyone else. I don't have anyone else to control or not control, but affect my mood, because I'm in control of my mood, but it can be heavily persuaded by what other people say. And I decided that I just want to go do something on my own. Not only that, it shows you how capable you are when you start doing things by yourself. You're like, damn, girl, get it. You can do this. And it just builds this real confidence within yourself. And try new things. I think so often we're like, I like to do this, and so I'm going to do this all the time. But how do you know if you don't like something if you don't try it? Which is so like cliche to say, but it's so true. Like, I love watercolor painting. And for so long, I stopped myself because I was like, I'm not good at watercolor painting. But I love it. And it just does something to me that calms me so much. But if I would have stopped myself from trying it because I wasn't good at it, then I wouldn't have this new tool that relaxes me and that I love to do. And so I think a lot of it is actually like figuring out who you are. And that is by spending time alone, because we're so often cluttered with all the things on social media. And I'm speaking like I have this all figured out of who I am. I don't. But I've started the process and it is so beneficial. It has helped me so much. And going on my Europe trip, it was spectacular. And something that actually happened on my Europe trip that I have wanted to share since like day one is that I finally chose myself. When an experience arose that there was, a potential crush kind of thing, I, instead of putting myself through pain and choosing to go down the role of what's wrong with me, why does nobody like me, I decided to choose myself. And I've shared this quote a couple times because it's so powerful. Because I chose myself, I chose not to listen to those voices in my head that were negative. And that was one of the most powerful things I've ever done for myself. And that was when I was in Italy. And it was hard, but it was powerful, and it just showed my growth, because I was able to take a situation that I had a lot of feelings about and turn it around and make it into something very positive and give myself this pride and say, you know what? I'm not putting myself through this again. I'm going to choose myself, because at the end of the day, all I have is myself. And it was so powerful. But that would have never happened if I took the time to spend some time with myself, like that realization. And so my advice to you is not to cut everybody out of your life. That's not what I'm saying. And I'm not saying don't hang out with people and don't hang out with your friends. It's also not what I'm saying. I'm just saying carve some time out to be alone. And it doesn't mean that you're lonely. And it doesn't mean that you're it's okay to be alone. I think so often, I feel like it's not okay to be alone and it's not okay to be single, but actually it's okay. And it's actually going to benefit me in the long term. I got to keep reminding myself that, because last week I was in tears about it, but it's just showing that the process is messy, but also that there's a silver lining and there's a reason why it's happening. Okay, the fifth thing is, drumroll please, it is taking bomb photos of yourself. Now, this one is a little bit less deep and kind of a strategy you can start implementing, but to be dead honest with you, I started taking photos of myself for social media. I decided I'm not going to keep taking all these photos and not sharing them. And then I started really getting into social media, and I'm not saying I have a big following by any means. I'm just saying that I started taking photos of myself, and not just selfies, because I was doing all selfies and it was just my face in your face. But I started taking photos of myself, and I started capturing moments, beautiful moments when I was enjoying life. And honestly, it has made such a difference. And I was just thinking about it the other day. I was like, oh my God, these pictures of me, I look so good. I was being my own hype girl. And I was like, this is because I took a banger photo of myself. And so I think it's something where it's a lot of times we hide away from the camera, or some people will hide away of the camera. But if you get yourself a wide lens, you get yourself a buddy to take a photo of you, a tripod, stand it up, take photos that you feel cute, put some outfits on that make you feel cute. And I'm telling you, that has actually made a huge difference, because I have been taking photos of myself while I was all in Europe, and I was like, damn girl, look how good you look. Again, just hyping myself up. But it's we don't really know what we look like to some extent. So it's cool to have these photos where you feel good in them. and you feel good about them and you're like, damn, and I'm not saying you have to post them or anything, but like just having pictures of yourself that you really like, it has made a huge difference for myself because I'm like, do I look that good right now? It's kind of weird, but like it is a tip that I would give is to just start taking some cute photos. Like when you feel cute, take some photos of it and be like, oh, so cute, you know? Like start being your own hype girl. Start living like nobody else is gonna, like, don't expect anybody to give you a compliment. Give it to yourself first. And it's kind of in that saying is like, show the love that you want to yourself first. And I'm like, yes. And it's funny because all these things I'm sharing with you, I still need to work on and I still am grappling with and thinking about. But again, I'm sharing with these things with you because they've helped me. And so if I can help you in any way in your process, that will be fantastic. And you know, what's really funny about this episode is I was like, oh, it's going to be 20 minutes. I'm going to keep it short. We're already at 40 minutes and I still have another point to go through. But we're going to wrap it up really quick here because I don't want it to be too long. But I just love talking and I am so passionate about the things that I learn and I'm just so excited to share them with you all. So let's go on to the 6th one, the very last tip for you all. And that is starting to surround yourself with people who are a little bit more positive about themselves. And not only just surrounding yourself with, but who you're following on social media makes a huge impact. So I follow a couple of these accounts that are like body positivity. But not only that, I follow people who look like me. And I follow people who don't look like me. But I found that like I started shifting the media that I was consuming and I was like, damn, this is making a huge impact because I was watching these girls who were confident and positive in their bellies and their bodies and it was like so empowering for me. And so I think that it's really important that kind of like how we talk about our bodies around others, but how other people around you talk about their bodies is really important too. Because like if they're constantly shatting on their body, it's not gonna help you grow in any way. And there's also that aspect where like sometimes I feel like, you know, my friend will say like, oh, I look so fat, and then I'm like, you are like so skinny and beautiful, like what are you talking about? And it kind of makes me feel even worse about myself. Just because I'm like, if that's fat, then like, what are you talking about? You know, it's kind of complicated. But it's very, very, very interesting. And also, this is all coming from a girl's perspective, but it was very interesting from when I started shifting the social media around me and also just not listening to what other people were saying about their bodies in a negative sense. Listening to them when they're talking positively about their body. And of course, like I said, it's a roller coaster. There's going to be some days where that are good and bad for everyone, not just me, for everyone. But really, what you consume on the internet is huge. If you're consuming a bunch of girls that are wearing bikinis all the time, looking very fit, there's a great chance that you might not feel so good about yourself if you don't look exactly like that. And so it's like unfollowing those people. Like unfollowing people who don't make you feel good about yourself is something that is very easy to do. And so that is my final tip. I'm going to keep that one quick and short because I want to wrap this up. So thank you so much for joining me today. I am going through a very interesting stage in my life where I am feeling good and bad all the time. Like it's a crazy ride. And lately I've just decided that I'm going to just start living with more purpose. And this feels like a perfect outlet for that, where I feel like I am sharing my purpose with you guys and I'm able to communicate what I'm feeling and my thoughts and what I'm thinking. And it is so powerful and rewarding for me. And if you love this podcast, it would mean the world to me to share it with one other person. If you were listening and you thought, wow, person X really needs to hear this, please share it. Please send it along or share your thoughts on social media. Send it, share the love because I genuinely would love to do this for the rest of my life and I need your help to get there. And so that is me asking for it. So anyway, comment, subscribe, download episodes. It all helps. It all makes a difference. But again, thank you for showing up and listening. Your listen means the world. And I hope that you feel a little less alone and you've gotten something from this conversation. My main goal is to help make the world a better place and help you in your journey, because there's so many times where we make ourselves feel like we're alone. I make myself feel like I'm alone, but we're not. We actually have a lot of the same things. We go through a lot of the same emotions and feelings. We're all equally beautifully different, but we do all struggle in certain ways. And so I am just sharing the highs and the lows of my life, and I'm so glad that you are here with me to experience it. So I hope you have the best day ever, and we will see you on next week's podcast episode. Bye!